I keep a notebook for every city that I visit. And so in this case, I was writing it down, and then in Paris, I found that I was writing the same thing of where do women eat on their own. In Venice, I discovered when I got home from Paris that I had written the same thing about Venice. So it really started for me about where do you dine on your own. And then if you could find a place to dine, but what would also be nice is who else could you meet, who you'd have to be able to really connect with someone else who might share some of your interests. And so those were two of the sort of core themes to Elite. I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had a fine art advisory firm, Suzanne Randolph Fine Arts, for decades, working in the area of public art as well as developing corporate art collections. And as a process of traveling for different art shows and art events around different parts, mostly in Europe, I discovered the need of what it was like to be a solo woman traveler, and created about a year and a half ago a company called the Elite Experience, which provides luxury services tailored to women who travel on their own for business, and luxury services that really support their needs. And I think in terms of the field of public art that I really love so much is the aspect of I do as a fine art advisor. That was also about looking at different audiences and what they needed and how the art could be conveyed to a broader audience. And so the same way, in a way, I'm doing it with the Elite's Experience of how I bring the interests of women who travel for business or travel for leisure and what their interests are, and bringing those services to a broader audience to make their lives more comfortable and geared towards their success. A good leader for me is someone who is an active listener. I think listening is really probably the best thing that you can do. And as you listen to people who work with you, who you're mentoring, you really want to listen to who they are so that you can guide them to be the best people that they can be. And I think that listening is probably the best thing you can do with a leader. It's not about follow me as the leader, but I think it's really kind of listening to help people create their own style in being good leaders. My outlook towards arts, my outlook towards being independent, I guess it really stems certainly from my parents, that's for sure. My father was a very independent person who was a real estate broker in Harlem and in Brooklyn. My mother, on the other hand, was a very accomplished New York City civil servant. She was the first African-American woman, the director of Harlem Hospital's Department of Social Service, and came out first in all the civics tests that they had to take, twice citywide tests. So she was very much of a first, and also led to become the creator, in a way, for the African-American adoptive services, family services for Spence Chapin. And ironically, just before she died, there was a celebration of their moving to their new home, Spence Chapin moving to their home, and she was there to be able to celebrate that. So it was really terrific. I have a son, and I have 3 stepsons, and they have 9 children altogether. So they're of the Shorter family, which is my married name. There are 4 Shorter boys. There are 9 grandchildren. So it's great. That particular day, I was at City Hall we had just set up a breakfast, and I was working on a project which I'd been working on for about 2 years, a memorial to Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese, their friendship. We had 8 artists who were presenting that morning. It was about 3 minutes before the first plane hit. I was on a board, Museum of the City of New York board, at the time, and they were renovating the Tweed Courthouse, which was right behind City Hall. We were there as the first tower fell, and we're running with the ashes right on our heels. The memorial for Jackie Robinson and Pee Wee Reese did go on about a year or so later, and then through a whole other sets of references and what I've done in the field, I was asked by American Express to do their memorial. They lost 11 people in the tower, and they were in-house travel agents, ironically, for one of my first clients, Marcia McLennan. And they were there, and they lost 11 people. And so that was really, I think, as I look back on it, probably the highlight to what I've done in the field. In fact, a family friend was here this weekend, and we just went to look at it. And it's still so beautiful and so moving and so perfect and so tender. So it's nice to be able to make something like that happen, to watch the colleagues heal and the families heal at the same time. I've been inspired by a lot of the work that Marianne Williamson does, who's quite an interesting force in this field. And it's not about religion, it's really about really understanding how you really shouldn't be fearful. It's really about having trust and faith. My father, who doesn't come to me all the time, came to me a couple of weeks ago and said, "You have to do more. You just have to do more than you can imagine." I was thinking about this, and the words that came to me are creating beauty. And that's, to me, is really what it's about. If it's doing something that I create myself, or being in the position, which I certainly hope to be, in the position of creating a fellowship or something where different cultures or artists could come together to create a project that would impact on a greater audience. I mean, something that's beautiful, even if it's a musical score or something wonderful. That, to me, around creating beauty would be really what I'd be able to kind of have a wand to kind of, put with some stars on it. The whole idea that we live, our life is really our temple, and that every day we have a chance to put a new stone to our temple to make it an even more glorious dwelling. So that's my mantra for the year. That's my personal sort of marching order for myself for the year, to make each day, a chance of really making my temple more glorious.